Hi, Tom Cole for the Lourdes University Spotlight. It's certainly an honor and a privilege for me to welcome in Dr. Rushford-Spence at Lourdes University, and I'm here with my partner, superstar Terry Crosby from Taylor Automotive. And Dr. Spence, you're a great teacher here at Lourdes, and it's certainly our honor to profile students and faculty members, administrators, and teachers. You're a lady of letters. Looking at your resume, I looked at the media writing, poetry, journalism, women's literature. With today's students, I've taught in college myself, and in today's students, is it harder to convey an interest? You know where I'm going with this, in those topics. How do you get the kids?
How do you get them interested?
There's where I'm going with that,
okay.
Doc.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I think it starts with your interest, right? If you bring a passion to the subject and you bring that excitement and enthusiasm into the classroom, then you will encourage their interest in that moment as well. And so that's where it starts. And then it's really about creating activities in the space of the classroom that allow them to dig into the materials and work with the texts. And I think that's when they really shine, is when they have their say.
Dr. Spence, that's interesting, because I know in class, writing is so important for students, and with our instant social, sometimes they think writing is the email that I sent or the text that I sent,
It is.
and it is in a way. But when they learn, when they actually do writing themselves, they experience something different. I mean, it's a feeling of satisfaction. And tell me about getting students to write and to write effectively. Is that a tough job today?
Yeah, I think that's always been a tough job. It's the job of the writing teacher, and it's really the job of all the instructors across campus in every discipline, right? Because we're all teaching writing.
Yes.
And so, I have experience teaching college composition, and then, of course, we teach writing in all the literature classes, and of course, you mentioned the media writing and things like that. We do professional writing. And so, writing is really, it's born of the English department, but it really extends throughout all the fields across the campus. And so, really, it's the job of all of us to come together and do that kind of teaching.
Dr. Spence, it's so interesting to me because I like to write also. I've written a couple of books, and I don't mean that in a braggadocio way. Just let you know.
I love it.
No, just let you know that I understand writing a little bit, and I found that the more you do it, you know where I'm going with this, right?
That's true.
I'm nothing close to Hemingway, but I've found that the more that I do it, I've gotten better at it. And is that something, the repetition you try to instill with your students?
I think that is the foundation of our beliefs about how to teach writing. Is the more the better. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And so you're right on it right there. And so that's why in college composition we have them, just doing lots of informal writing and practicing in emails or texts or things, and for social media and in all sorts of genres and for all sorts of audiences, and I think that really helps students to, the more they write, the better they get at it.
Terry and I we need to get in your writing class.
Yes.
we really do.
You already wrote books. I think.
Well, that doesn't mean they were any good, Dr. Spence.
I think they're great.
I don't know.
I want to read them.
All right, I'll send you one. All right, I'll send you one.
Dr. Spence, I kind of studied your bio before I came here, and I understand that you've been here about 4 years, is that correct?
It's 8 years.
You've been at Lourdes for 8 years?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what I would like to ask you, in your experience of being here at Lourdes for 8 years, what are some of the things that you maybe could mention or try to encourage future students in regards to considering Lourdes, coming here as a student?
That's a great question. I feel like, when people first arrive on campus, they can sort of tell how, you can see how beautiful it is. And so that's a really good first impression. And then when they start to walk around the hallways, they're usually going to meet people and see that we're a really friendly community. People are going to say hi to you, especially, faculty and really other students and things like that. We're a very friendly place. And so I think that's really important. And I think Lourdes is attentive to the shifts that are happening sort of in the real world, and we're, you know, always innovating and creating new programs to, you know, provide opportunities for students to major in things of interest that are going to translate to, you know, jobs and things like that. And I feel like the students who come here get just a really good foundation in liberal arts, and that's really important, obviously a key component of our mission. So I mean, those are kinds of the things that I would say.
I'm really amazed with your lifetime accomplishments, and but specifically here on Lourdes University campus, I was reading some about the disability
Experiences, yeah.
Fill us in on that. Give us a little bit more information about that.
Okay, so I consider myself a disability studies person. I'm in the English department, and I do 19th and 20th century American literature, but also I focus my research and some teaching on disability. And so all of my research is in that field, in the disability studies field. And most recently, I published a short piece for this new book that came out, Disability Experiences, and it's really exciting. It's a collection of memoirs, autobiographies, and other personal narratives of people who have had disabilities and lived with those experiences throughout the years. So this is a really broad-ranging text that incorporates tons of different voices and experiences and different disabilities, and it's really fascinating. And it was just mentioned for a really prestigious award, so that was kind of exciting. Yeah, that was kind of exciting too. I was like, oh, how exciting! You know?
Well, you deserve that. Dr. Spence, segue off of Terry's question. You know, I've taught in classroom situations where there's 100 students in the class. I prefer to teach in classroom situations where there are 12, 13, or 14. Mm-hmm. Not that you can deliver the information. That's not an issue. You have the X and O's. You're extraordinarily talented. You can deliver the information. But when you have smaller class size, and I'd like you to talk to this, you establish a special relationship with those students. You get to know them. You know them very well. You know their strengths. Maybe you know some of their weaknesses that you can help them. You know, lift them. Do you find that to be true at Lourdes?
Absolutely, yes. Most of my class sizes are very small, and the great part is, you know, we have plenty of majors and things like this, and I get to know the English majors through the years. And I think it's really awesome how well I get to know them when I have them in classes, you know, starting when they're freshmen all the way until they're seniors. And when you have the small class size, you get to know them even better, their writing even better, you can help them improve, and then I work with them on their capstone projects, and it's like, oh wow, you know, I've just seen this person sort of develop all the way along, and now they're graduating, and here I am at their graduation ceremony, and it's wonderful because you really do get to know everybody on an individual basis.
Dr. Spence, I had a class recently where I was telling the youngsters, I should say students, I'm an old guy, but the reading is so important, and writing is so important, that you have to read and you have to write, and it's just going to develop you as a person. And I also said poetry. I like poetry, and I threw that out there, and then I got a couple of different looks, and I said, wait a minute. I said, let me do this poem for you with Emily Dickinson, because I could not stop her death. Death stopped me.
Yes,
the poem. Great Emily Dickinson poem. And I have to admit, of the 20 students in the class, about 12 really liked it. They didn't know it, but after they heard it, they liked it. You're into poetry. Is that a difficult thing to get across to students?
They can be intimidated by poetry at first, but then I feel like once we get moving and I give them the strategies to think about how we're going to read it, how we're going to study it, how we're going to analyze it, I think then they get much more comfortable with it, and they do find, since we read a broad range of poets, they do find poems and poets that they connect to.
They hit them the minute they hear it.
Yeah, in the same way that they do with like short stories or novels.
A song lyric.
And that's actually exactly how I introduced poetry this semester too, was to say, where in everyday life do you hear poetry? And that was one of the answers right away, in music. And so that's a really good sort of jumping off point.
That's a great point. Jim Morrison with the Doors, and whether you like his music or not, he made a lot of music, and they weren't songs. They were poems that he had written, and Ray Manzarek, the key player, said, well, wait a minute, these are good poems, Jim, but I think they're songs also. And he literally took his poem book and turned that into songs, and 100 million records later, that's what it is.
That's awesome.
Dr. Spence, it's an honor for Terry and I to chat with you, and you really admire, there's nothing more important than a teacher. I mean, a teacher, makes a difference to a young person and makes a difference in the rest of their lives. So we're honored to chat with you and keep up the fantastic work that you're doing at Lourdes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate
I just
it.
wanted to remind you of one thing.
Okay.
Get back to Miami University.
I know I do need to get back to my. I'm gonna take a trip down there. Yeah, it's a great place.
Promise me.
I promise. I
Very
promise.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Doctor, great to be with you.
You too.
Tom Cole for Lourdes University Spotlight.